what's known as an international school, a K through 12 international, which means that it's private, but it has maybe a third of the population is local, so in this case Italian, maybe a third English, so American, maybe British, and a third international, in other words, not Italian. And that's typical for international schools around the world. There are associations that sort of regulate them. They do a program called the IB, the International Baccalaureate, which
Our
is
daughter graduated.
wonderful, which is
What's it
really
stand for?
interesting.
International Baccalaureate.
And it's a wonderful curriculum out of Switzerland, actually, that continues to be very innovative, very creative, good
difficult.
combination of theory and practice, and difficult, yeah. And interestingly enough, this degree, the International Baccalaureate, which is offered in the States at more and more schools now, gets you into universities everywhere in the world. Whereas typically the American International School diploma, if you don't do the IB there, you cannot go to Italian university. You can only go to a British or an American university. So when it says International Baccalaureate, it really means that your high school diploma gets you into any university anywhere. And very few high schools have that. I mean, in American high school, you cannot go to a school in Italy or in England, and vice versa, too. The state system in Italy is considered to be a very, very good system. Education has always been very, very important in Italy, and it has always been something that has had a classical kind of identity. Classical meaning the school tells you what to study, and you study in a very traditional way. So that means methodology. What I'm doing now, which is what I'm not supposed to do in an English language classroom, is I am talking a lot. We have an acronym, TTT, Teacher Talking Time. And I am really messing this up because I am talking too much. We should be doing Student Talking Time, STTs, silly acronyms. Anyways, I will have you do this later. The Italian system means that the students do what the school tells you to do, almost to the letter, literally. You start school at the same age anyone starts school now, very, very young. Elementary school, middle school, and high school go all the way up to the age of 19. And I think maybe what's most interesting is that in middle schools, in about a year and a half, you will choose your pathway. You will choose a pre-scientific, a classical, an artistic, a linguistic, or a generic middle school. So we're talking about somebody at a very young age and their parents making choices for a future pathway. Middle school is still very generic. It's middle school. High school in Italy is very, very well defined. You go to a specific kind of high school, and that's kind of, I think, what's maybe most interesting for the conversation today. The most rigorous type of high school is classical. And you study Latin, you study Greek, you study 9 or 10 subjects, and you study them all year.
Tom,
Yeah.
pause just for a second and ask, I don't know that in the United States, or particularly Utah, we're particularly innovative, but I think we really see a lot of change in students and families over the last 5 years or the last 10 years. Since I was a student, students are immensely different today
Yes.
than they were when I was a student.
Yes.
But as I walk down the streets of Florence, I'm seeing teenagers today, just like my teenagers back at home.
Yes.
Are students
They're evolving, and I'm smiling because many of the high schools have existed for over 100 years or 150 years, which means that parents and grandparents have gone there. So we're on maybe the second, third, sometimes even the fourth generation going to the same high school, all right? The same high school means the same building that looks like a museum, that looks like places that you go to the Uffizi or things like that too. And nothing has changed in 150 years inside the classroom or outside the classroom.
Yeah.
But the children have. Yeah.
Yesterday I walked into Galileo
Yes,
Classico,
yeah.
and the teacher came out, she goes, "Oh, mi scusi, this is a school."
Yes, I
That's-
know.
it's not a
I know,
museum.
I know, and it's, they're not the only one, I know. Yeah, and so, yes, the younger generation has changed, and definitely they are as Western, I wanna say as American, as you can possibly see, the way they dress, the music they listen to. What has, I think, really, really changed a lot, though, is that because you are forced to choose a typical high school, and so we're talking maybe about parents making the choice for the student at the age of 14, it becomes a choice that you have to live with in many ways, and I'll give you some examples. But classical high school, which as I said is the most rigorous, is the high school that is known for preparing you to do anything, because you study, and all you do is study. Italian high schools do not have extracurricular activities built into the program. The concept of high school in Italy is studying. And so if you have 9 subjects that you are studying concurrently, you are spending a lot of time studying. So high schools don't have sports teams, they don't have sports fields, they don't have gymnasiums. If they do, they're probably falling apart. They don't have drama clubs, they don't have orchestra, they don't have debate teams, things like that. Because the concept is that school is school. And school means a teacher, students, examinations, graduation, moving on to the next experience. And this sounds terrible, and it's not, and I don't want to present it that way. It's a cultural thing, and I happen to think that the Italian education system, the high school component is the best part of the system by far, and I'll tell you why. Another very popular type of high school is scientific, and basically that means that you are inclined or you do well in the sciences. And so you will have, instead of 5 years of Latin and Greek, you might have 2 years of Latin and Greek, and then you'll have chemistry and physics and biology at a very high level, along with the other subjects. But it would be for, I don't know, what might be known as the STEM, the future of those people, or nerds, or all of those things. I mean, the people that, you know, are really sort of very directed towards the sciences. The third most popular is linguistic, and the high school focuses on 3 to 5 languages. And so again, instead of the sciences or instead of the classics, you would be focusing on languages. And typically those languages are, of course, French, German, Spanish. We're starting to see Chinese. We're starting to see Arabic in small doses in that sense too. The next kind of high school is technical, which I think would be comparable to a VOTEC school, something, so I mean, you are really learning a craft or a vocation in that sense too. You would not be studying the other subjects like Latin and Greek and things like that. You would be learning almost a trade. Typically, these are sort of IT schools, basically, but very, very much focused on the the working world, sort of life after school. High school is 5 years. You go to school on Saturdays in many cases, it's 6 days a week. And the method of studying in Italian high schools is, again, very classical. The teacher speaks, the students take notes, they memorize, and then they are examined. And it's interesting because the word in Italian is interrogazione. So that makes you think of Homeland Security or Guantanamo or something like that too. And that's exactly how the students feel it. But the approach is really very traumatic, but evidently it builds character. You have to be prepared to be interrogated on any of these 9 subjects every day. The teacher does not tell you, we're having an exam in chemistry next